Long before the heart of Africa was ever mapped, explorers were irresistibly drawn to this secret world. Africa's greatest secret of all, for thousands of years, was the source of the world's longest river, the Nile. The Nile is unique.
Friend Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt follow different religions, yet they all draw spiritual sustenance from the river.
The Nile has brought such wealth and power that many have tried to own it. But the river has defied even the mightiest pharaohs because it's greater than all of us. The waters of the Nile bring life and nourish the soul. Just Christians in LALIBELA carved magnificent churches out of solid rock. The Blue Nile River has been carving this huge canyon through the highlands of Ethiopia, which the British named the Grand Canyon of Africa. The Scout helps, but it's deceptive. From the air, it's really easy to forget that it's the most dangerous river in Africa. The aerial scout confirmed, before we departed, Muhammad had a promise to keep.
My grandfather is a farmer in Egypt. He gets 100% of his water from the Nile. I promised him when I go to the river source, I would bring him a vial of holy water. The Ethiopians treasure the Nile, just as we do in Egypt.
As we head down the river, the whole team is pumped. Most of the wild rivers on every continent have already been run, but not the Blue Nile. This is one of the last great river expeditions left in the world. No one has ever succeeded in running this entire river from source to sea. All those who've tried it have either died or given up. As a geologist, these lava flows have a certain fascination for me.
Just hope my photos can capture their spirit.
No wonder Christianity survived here. The mountains kept invaders out. This is not exactly a gentle land.
I admire efficient predators. They set eyes on one of the most magnificent sights in all of Africa, Tissisat Falls.
Gondor, a city of palaces and castles. Ethiopia in the 17th century. For the first time in the country's history, King Fasilides began with the construction of a walled palace. Until then, the emperors of that time took part in various campaigns during the dry season. Only in the rainy season was the court located within a camp. So, in the course of a century, a huge fortification was built with several royal palaces and a number of churches. After Emperor Johannes, the son of Fasilides, followed a grandson, Iyasu I, who had a two-story palace built here. There is a high domed main hall, used mainly for formal events. The emperor's living quarters were far smaller. Dawit III, a son of Emperor Iyasu, had his palace built in the north of Fasil Gebe, protected by a 900-meter-long wall. There were caged lions. The archive is like a small castle. Art and culture made Gondar the religious center of Ethiopia. The former Turkish baths are now in ruins, but they were very much in evidence at that time and no doubt gave great comfort to those who used them. Under Emperor Bakafa, imperial power was consolidated for the last time. He too had a palace built within the Fasil Gebe. A final flowering of courtly power began at the end of the 17th century and attracted merchants from Europe, the Middle East, and the Arabian Peninsula. Just outside the center of the city, a sturdy wall surrounds a garden planted with trees, at the center of which is a castle and moat, the bathroom of Fasilides. It was situated in the middle of a large water basin in which the emperor bathed. On a hill in the town, Emperor Iyasu I had the Debri Berhan Selassie built, the monastery of the Holy Trinity on the Mountain of Light. The church was built according to the unusual religious form of a long-drawn AXUMite basilica. Simple images of Jesus, the Holy Trinity, and Our Lady decorate the external gallery. Wonderful murals adorn the interior, and the heads of angels on the ceiling bring to mind the souls of the beheaded. On another hill is the complex of Kuskuam, well protected beyond sturdy walls, with the Debre Tsehai Church and the Empress Palace. Stored in a small adjoining building are the final relics of those bygone times, and the remains of the Empress and her son. Next to it, the palace ruins. It was here that Empress Mentewab once resided when life in Fasil Gebe became too dangerous. Finally, the empire disintegrated, a fact that spelled the inevitable decline of the imperial city of Gondar. Three kilometers from Gondar is a little village and its huts, Falasha. The inhabitants call themselves Ethiopian Jews. They're descendants of the Jewish tribes who accompanied Menelik from Jerusalem. They're well known for their pottery. What once was a laborious route to the north of the country is now much easier. From an aircraft flying above the vast Simeon Mountains, below there's a bizarre world of incredible mountain canyons, mesas and cliffs. At an altitude of more than 4,000 meters above sea level is a fine landscape, with some unique wildlife, such as the Shellada baboon. The baboons can be observed at close quarters while they graze. These brown primates have lion-like manes and a friendly demeanor. The mountain tribes eat only grasses, flowers and seed. To satisfy their appetite, they must eat throughout the day. In 1966, this landscape became a national park. The mountains end abruptly in the north and become hill country. Soon, the aircraft touches down. At a modern airport that meets the needs of increasing tourism. Historic AXUM was once the capital of a mighty kingdom. On the site of two previous religious buildings, this ancient cathedral was rebuilt in 1665. Thrones constructed of stone have witnessed the coronation of various monarchs whose Ethiopian Orthodox faith from the 5th century on spread far and wide. From the Eastern Roman Empire, fleeing missionaries known as monophysites introduced the ancient Christian faith, which taught that Christ had only one divine nature. Eventually, the concept of a division of faith came into being, and Ethiopian Christianity developed independently. An enigma lies within a small chapel next to the cathedral. Here, a monk is said to protect the Ark of the Covenant, believed to contain the tables of the 10 Commandments which God gave to Moses. AXUM is also referred to as Ethiopian Rome, capital of the oldest Christian kingdom in the world, the largest outside the Roman Empire. The new cathedral was established in 1965 under Haile Selassie I, the last emperor of the Solomonian dynasty. It is one of Ethiopia's few religious buildings in which people gather to celebrate Mass, which lasts for several hours. In the new cathedral, a 600-year-old Bible forms part of its well-preserved treasures. Here, too, are colourful paintings of martyrs and of the Virgin Mary with the child Jesus. Around the huge church building, there are always a large number of believers. The ruins of AXUM are dominated by around 130 stelas. Obelisk-like monoliths of trachyte, a splendid sight. Others lie in pieces on the ground. The stelas of the Aksumite culture were created from natural stone, from which numerous grave sites were marked out. The idea of the grave as being the house of the dead led to the decoration of the stelas as a kind of living room. Thus arose the story stela. At the base of the collapsed stele tomb, entrances have been exposed on both sides. Only a few of the underground grave chambers are open to the public. On today's western periphery of GONDOR lie the ruins of a relatively modest complex, popularly known as the Palace of the Queen of Sheba. The queen visited King Solomon in Jerusalem, who impregnated her, and later their son Menelik took the holy federal charge to AXUM. Next to the palace are the remains of the Gwudet Stele field, named after the queen who is said to have destroyed AXUM. In the north, the large water basins of Mei Shum are called the Baths of the Queen of Saba. They date back to Aksumite times and have been frequently renovated. On the hill above the town are the underground grave chambers of King Caleb and Gebre Maskal. Although little remains of the former capital of the Aksumite kingdom, Ethiopia's holiest site, it continues to be a place of mystery and legend.